Welcome to The Explainer. It's pretty wild how just three little words from a world leader can kick off a global chain reaction of pressure, power plays, and some seriously high-stakes strategy.
Okay, let's just dive right in. It all starts with this one very provocative claim. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty straightforward, right? Like a declaration of direct control. But the analysis we're going to break down today suggests it is way more nuanced than that.
Exactly. What does that really mean? That one sentence kicked off a huge debate. And so today, we're going to unpack what the speakers in our source material believe is actually going on behind the curtain. And let me tell you, it's not what you might think at first glance.
To really get a handle on this, the first thing we have to do is make a really crucial distinction. The speakers are super clear about this. This is not about running Venezuela with boots on the ground. No, this is about a totally different kind of power. So check this out. This slide shows a really fascinating contrast. The analysis separates two different approaches. There's the Viceroy model, think Paul Bremer having direct rule in Iraq, and then there's this pressure model, which is supposedly what's happening here. This new way of doing things isn't about occupation. It's all about applying leverage from a distance to get what you want.
So if we're not talking about troops, what does this pressure actually look like? Well, the analysis points to a whole toolkit. We're talking a naval presence just off the coast, huge financial leverage, and a long-term intelligence operation. All of it designed to just put a thumb on the scale and subtly steer things in a certain direction. And they draw a direct line to this moment in history. The whole idea is that you can apply so much immense behind-the-scenes pressure that a leader, kind of like Gaddafi back in 2003, just decides it's better to give in to the demands. No full-scale invasion necessary.
Okay, so as you'd probably guess with a strategy that's meant to be covert, the view from the outside starts to get, messy. You start seeing all these conflicting reports and totally different reads on what the facts on the ground actually are. So on one side, you've got journalists on the ground, and they're painting a really grim picture. We're talking chaos in the streets, paramilitary gangs, government crackdowns. That narrative is all about the immediate turmoil and, of course, the human cost. But then you get the counter-argument. And the critique there is that this kind of reporting, while maybe factually accurate, is being purposely obtuse. The idea is that by focusing only on the chaos right in front of you, you're either intentionally or unintentionally missing the much bigger strategic geopolitical chess game that's being played. And this brings us to what might be the most crucial point of the whole thing. The speakers argue that this situation isn't just about Venezuela. No, the pressure being applied there is specifically designed to create a domino effect, one with massive consequences for other global powers.
This slide just lays out the strategy perfectly. Think of it like a three-step play. Step 1, you disrupt the regime in Venezuela. That immediately hits their key ally, Cuba. And that, in turn, creates some major headaches for two much bigger players with a stake in the game, China and Russia. This number, it's a really stark piece of evidence that was mentioned in the discussion. 32. That's the reported number of dead Cuban Security Service members. It's just one figure, but it really suggests how deeply involved and how heavily impacted Cuba already is by all this turmoil. And then there's China. For them, the stakes are just enormous. The source points out that having instability in two of their key suppliers, Venezuela and Iran, could threaten up to 20% of their daily oil supply. I mean, that's not a small problem. That is a direct threat to the very lifeblood of their economy.
So you see how it all connects? This all comes together to weaken the strategic positions of major U.S. rivals. According to this analysis, when Russia and China are scrambling to deal with resource shortages and instability in their allied countries, it becomes a lot harder for them to project power somewhere else, whether that's Russia and Ukraine or China near Taiwan. So, after all that, what's the big picture takeaway? What should you get from all this? Well, the discussion is really pointing towards something much bigger than just Venezuela. It suggests we might be watching a huge shift in how international power actually works in the modern world.
To put it really simply, the argument being made is that you don't need to be a viceroy in Baghdad anymore to change a country's direction. Instead, this new model relies on things like financial leverage, intelligence ops, and a whole lot of strategic patience to achieve major geopolitical goals without leaving a giant military footprint. And all of this leaves us with one final, and I think really crucial question to think about. Are we watching the playbook for future conflicts being written right now? In real time?
Is this mix of covert action and economic leverage the new and maybe even more effective face of global power?